Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the ninth session of Coaches Corner. This is where we kind of build in experiential learning to all the coaches. My name is Aditya. I'm a coach, specifically focusing on emotional intelligence and mindfulness. And I've got my friend here with me, who is the partner in this crime with me, Kingshuk Ganguly. Kingshuk, would you please introduce yourself?
Okay, I put up my hand like a politician. So, hi everyone. My name is Kingshuk Ganguly. Uh, I'm a coach for last 8-9 years. Prior to this, I've been working for about 20 plus years with various corporates like CRISIL, Bharti AXA Life Insurance, Fidelity, G Capital, L&T, and Tube Investments. And I'm based out of Bombay. So, thank you, and it's a real honor and pleasure to be here.
Thanks, Dada. So the panelists that we have today is Krishna Prakash ji. He has over 20 years of diverse experience across IT consulting, hospitality, academia, and entrepreneurship. Since 2008, he has been working with a whole host of people in transforming their lives. Some of them include one of the best female golfers in history, winners of prestigious Euromoney Award, an internationally reputed voice culture specialist, a drummer of a celebrated international band, a female pop sensation, and a whole host of people across industries and different countries. In 2011, he started Srimad Yoga, and since 2013, Srimad Yoga has been securing the Certificate of Excellence for almost 5 consecutive years. And in 2019, they entered the Hall of Fame at TripAdvisor. It's a rare honor for any yoga school, basically. And in mid 2020, amidst the entire pandemic thing that is going on around the world, purely based on the reviews that they were getting, TripAdvisor has awarded Srimad Yoga with the prestigious Traveler's Choice Award for the year 2020. It's kind of reserved for the top 10 hotels and resorts across the world. And in addition to this, in 2019, Krishna Prakash ji is nominated as the life member at the Government of India supported Indian Yoga Association, which is founded by Yogacharya B.K. Iyengar. And Yoga Alliance in the United States has recognized Krishna ji as an experienced yoga teacher by awarding the ERYT 500 to him, basically. So in addition to this, he's also an author. He writes on various platforms, very active on LinkedIn for those of you who would like to follow him. And his book, The Fellow Seeker, is up for release pretty soon. It's coming out very soon. So I'm very excited with that, Krishna Prakash ji, and welcome to Coach's Corner.
Namaste. It was kind of you to share the introduction. Many times these introductions become a burden. So let me also withdraw from all that. It's like on a journey, you happen to enjoy some beautiful flowers and fragrances. That's it. So the focus is always on the journey, and really kind of you to introduce. And I'm very happy to meet senior coaches like Kingshuk here. And it gives me delight that a couple of my very close friends who are my sounding boards, Kishore and Amit, said that yes, we are there in this with you, and I'm very happy to meet each and every one of you, because there is something for us to exchange. That's why I think we are meeting here. So just let me know how we can start this.
Sure. So just before we start off, I would like to talk about a small deviation that we would be having in this particular edition of Coach's Corner compared to the previous ones. Purely because in this particular one, unlike the other ones, we will not have it as interactive. as we had the previous ones, purely because of the reason that there are going to be a few yogic practices that Krishna Prakash ji is going to teach us. So we want to kind of go through that entire thing. And once that is over, you can probably have your questions asked, and we can respond to them. Okay. So Krishna Prakash ji, we had multiple conversations, and you often talk about the similarities between a coach and a Yoga Vedanta teacher. Can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, Vedanta tells us that there is nothing need to be done. We are what we are searching for. So the entire journey is a journey of discovering that self with a capital S. But every other journey we undertake is discovering ourself, which is the small s. Like I try to discover who this Krishna is, who everyone is talking about. But Krishna himself is trying to figure out what is that behind his name and form. So that capital S. So the similarity with coaching is we as a coach are always about helping others discover what they actually are. There is no superimposition of our past, our experiences. In fact, to be very honest, the coachee doesn't even need to know who we are and what we did. The reason is it may influence them as well, unless they are even trained. So I always would suggest, even if someone is coming as a coachee, let them undergo a program, like how a coach undergoes a program, so that the personalities should not come in the way of discovering solutions. So this is what in Yoga Vedanta, the ultimate is liberating ourselves from this sense of limitation, correct? In yoga, you call it Kaivalya. The same Kaivalya is mentioned as moksha, which is liberation while living. It's not a freedom after death, like organized religions say. So a coach does the similar sense of liberation. They bring out that sense of liberation. They bring out whatever is hidden in the person sitting before them. Because the journey is about them, right? It's about their journey. We just happen to facilitate. We are there. It's like a flower is there. We just happen to be there to enjoy the fragrance. You can't create the fragrance. You can't dictate how the flower is blooming. So it is completely about the one who has respected us and is seated there. So when we approach teachers, I felt my teacher, I met him in 97. The teachers always say that we consider them as teachers. But it appears that the great ones doesn't consider that they are teachers. They are there when a knowledge is happening, and it happens that some people are there to receive that knowledge. So the idea of Yoga Vedanta also is whatever we need to discover is within, it is there within us. That's why Archimedes discovered the solution. The benzene ring was discovered. Any new breakthrough didn't come by just reading books or attending lectures or doing a thesis, right? They just occur within when you allow that to happen. So the only work of a coach is to assure them that it's just a matter of time. It's like you plant a coconut tree. I always say, you want short results, then you have a 30-year coconut tree, which starts giving you from 3 years. And after 30 years, the life is gone. But if your real coconut tree lives for 120 years like humans, 260-year cycle, but the first coconut you get on the 12th year. So there is a reward for waiting. So what we found today is everyone wants quick results. So quick results, I don't know. Unless some work has been done in the past, we can't get quick results. So the main work could be to instill that forbearance and patience. So these are all the parallels I found from sharing whatever I understood from the feet of my teachers on Yoga Vedanta and coaching.
Fantastic. I mean, some of the points that you have made about there is a reward for waiting. it's so relevant for our times, for our current times, where people want everything as of yesterday, and patience is almost as a virtue is becoming extinct these days. So thanks a lot for that one, for that, Krishna Prakash ji. The other thing that has come to me as we keep talking, and you have mentioned this in a conversation that we also had, was about reflective listening. Can you elaborate more on that, and also if there are any yogic practices that can help us cultivate this trait? Can you talk about it? Can you help us with that?
Yes. Yeah, we can give names, but basically we have to be present there when something happens around us, right? Like we can keep talking. I would like to borrow what my teacher often says, physically present, mentally absent. We will be smiling, we'll be shaking the head, we'll be interacting, but we will absorb with the filter which we already have. So that filtering has to be nirmala, which has to be pure. It's only to take off the impurity, not anything else. So if we understand exactly what someone is trying to communicate, we need to be transparent. It's an agenda-free life, right? So I always observe when a child comes back home, as a parent, we all have done this reflective listening. We never judge, we never try to reason out to the child. We never suggest even the child, he or she should have behaved like this, because you happily have accepted the role of a nurturer. See, when you are present for the child opens out, as it were. And moment it is done, then it will look at you. Maybe you have to give some food. So that's exactly what the coach is going to do. Allowing to empty. Someone is sharing, allowing to empty. The same scenario you can see in chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita, right? Arjuna marshals arguments after arguments that why he should not fight. Everything is listened carefully, because if you interrupt, you strengthen the person who is sharing. It gives one more reason for them to hang on to their notions. So that is the original emptying, right? And see the levels. They found that you could be one of their sounding boards, or they can bring out the best from them. That's why they are reaching out to us. So there is no need for any validation that what you are saying is right. Moment you say, 20 years back it happened with me, then it will become about us. Correct? So we just allow them to just share what's happening. So this is one method. And in the yogic system, we use one mudra, which is called a yoni mudra, which is an inverted triangle. What it does, all of us, the thumb, 2 thumbs and the big toes, brain's nerve endings are there. So many of the mudras, if you notice, always has particularly this meditation, reflection, contemplation, withdrawal, concentration. The mudras used for inward journey generally involves a thumb, and management of the thumb is important. So when this is the yoni mudra, the basic yoni mudra, which is allowed to share. There are 3 levels of yoni mudra. This one is for public consumption. See, there is a triangle which is formed, right? And there is a pressure which is exerted in the thumbs. So what happens is the communication and the balance between the both hemispheres, the brain is there. And then this is generally the outgoing finger. When you want to tell something, a direction, or you want to point any faults or good, this is the index finger. That's why it's called index finger. It comes out, and that is as well under the control here. So this yoni mudra, preferably a triangle is formed, and an inverted triangle is the source and a great receptivity. So this inverted triangle can be adopted when someone is talking with us. It naturally improves our listening skills. And to my astonishment, when I went to a particular corporate house where a lot of chartered accountants work for an MNC, many of them shared that without knowing that this is a mudra which is good for listening or meditation, they were practicing it intuitively. No one taught them. So naturally, people tend to sit like this. So that was a great insight, correct? So this is one mudra which we could practice when we just want to become a better listener, not only of others. You need to listen to you primarily, right? You need to listen to yourself, your own thoughts, without discarding, without suppressing. Then we know how to express. So when you are with yourself and there is no work, always we can't be engaged in WhatsApp, always we can't be engaged in studying something. We have to be comfortable with ourselves as a human being, more so as a coach. So the more we are comfortable, the more we will not impose anything, because you are already happy, content what you are, because your journey is definitely different from someone else's journey. We are there as a facilitator. So this mudra helps us a lot. Even when you're watching something, when you're listening something, you just sit quiet and with relaxed shoulders, the elbows are quick and you are there. So this is one mudra which we can experiment. I'm open to receive feedback after 2-3 weeks of practice. The second process which we could do is called inner silence. This inner silence was brought to public by Swami Satyananda. And technically we call it Antar Mauna. So there are 6 stages in that, wherein the Buddhists, Vipassana meditation and all that takes root there. But in the Yoga Tantra and Vedanta system, this is part of the 5th limb of yoga. Yoga has 8 limbs. The 5th limb of yoga is withdrawal, which is pratyahara. Ahara is food. So the senses get food from everywhere, right? Like I can see 80% of my knowledge comes by sight. So when you close your eyes, it's a different experience. So every sense has giving you inputs, and all the inputs are aggregated by the mind. So when we reduce the inputs from the senses, there is less work for the mind, because as it is, mind has a lot of works. It has a lot of thought bundles to sort out. So what Antarmona does is helps us to stay with one sense, and we generally practice with the sense of sound, because sound is the subtlest of the 5 senses. It's a very small exercise. Maybe we can experiment it for 2 minutes if you permit.
Sure.
Can we go ahead?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, just 2 minutes we'll practice. Once you internalize, you can practice up to 6 minutes in one sitting, because it sometimes gives you a lot of withdrawal sensation. So with practice, you can increase your time. So at most practice 6 minutes, but today as a sample, let's do it for 2 minutes. Okay. So sit comfortably. Let your eyes be closed. And with a gentle smile, open out your chest. In case you wish to adopt the Yoni Mudra, you could. If you're already a practitioner of some mudras, be comfortable to choose that one you feel it suits you. Others can just be seated with the palms to the roof. Ensure your elbows are relaxed, the shoulders are opened out, and the spine is straight. Now, with the gentle smile on your face and the eyes closed, become aware of the sounds around you. Depending on where you are, you could even hear ticking of a clock, to chirping of birds, to people speaking outside your room, or someone listening to a radio or a television. Any sound is okay. all we are doing is we are just part of that, and we are ready to observe any sound that happens. It's quite natural for the mind to travel elsewhere, sometimes to the past and future. It's absolutely okay. The moment you are aware of that, gently get your mind to the awareness of sounds around you. Now just pick up one sound from the gamut of sounds and just be with that sound. If it is a sound from nature, there will be intervals. Suppose if you are listening to the chirping of a bird, the bird may pause. So let us pause and wait for it to make the sound. If you are listening to the rhythmic clock in the wall, so be it. Just be with that. So with a smiling face, choose whichever sound which you feel you are connected, and just be with that sound. Now, become aware of your breath. Become aware of your body, seated steady. Now you can practice palming. Just rub your palms, generate some heat, and place the palms over the eyelids. Transfer the warm sensation. Please treat your eyelids like flower petals. So just place the palms and transfer the heat. And then hold the palms before yourself like how you would read a book. With a few blinks, you can look at the palms, familiarize yourself. So this is the essence. You can expand it because all of you are reasonably experienced with life and coaching. This is just one small thing, and every aspect feel free to expand. So when we do this, what happens? Sound being the subtlest of the senses, the one who is going to communicate with you, and you give them a title called Kochi, they are going to give you sounds. It's in a particular language. Like when you are aware of the sounds, You never wanted the crow to make a different sound. A crow can make the sound what a crow can make. If you don't like ticking of the clock, you need to get a digital clock. But you can't change the way a clock ticks. So there is an acceptance generally there. Many of us can't even tell how the child and the spouse will talk with us. You can't change anybody. Everybody has their own nature of expression. So what happens when you expand this practice? You start accepting the sounds as what they are, and you do what best you can to manage. Correct? By our likes and dislikes, nothing is going to change. So when you treat the message which the coach is giving you similar to the sounds, your inner calm is maintained. You are not rushing to give any solution, because solution everyone has to find themselves. And how much ever you try, we are human beings. You will never get to know anyone 100%, for the simple reason nobody knows about themselves 100%. All we know is the tip of iceberg about ourselves. So the very idea of trying to understand someone is to take it with a pinch of salt. Because when we can't understand ourselves, the next minute, what thought I'm going to get? How in the world can we understand somebody other than us? So the coach's mind is prepared to just be present while someone is interacting with them. We are just a sponge. We just take it. And naturally, once the listening out happens, some solutions, some pathways will start to emerge from them. So this is how Antarmona gradually prepares us. So as I was sharing with Aditya, if the coaching session is 1 hour, say for example 4 to 5, we should know to withdraw from our other activities half an hour before that. It's like sharpening the axe, right? We all know that story. For using the axe for one moment, you have to spend a lot of time sharpening it. So in this half an hour of preparation, you go through whatever information they have already provided you, practice whichever meditation process 6 to 12 minutes. Why I keep telling 6 to 12 minutes? In the astronomy calculation, 48 minutes, in India, you call it one muhurta. Any process to internalize, either you practice multiples of 48 minutes or starting with 1/4 of it, which is 12 minutes. So if you take a 30-minute investment on yourself so that you are very enriched and ready to receive someone at 4 o'clock. So you do some small meditative practice, some just seated with the mudra and observe things, and a small yoga nidra process. This is from our side. And then you are completely prepared. Like how you prepare for an event or a wedding, they are handing over the confidentiality and life in our hands. So we need to respect that, and we should be better prepared. It's not a matter of fact, oh, I am handling this, then 5 to 6, I will handle someone. Even a surgeon with precision can't do that. They need a break. So this is how these processes help us to be prepared when someone gets into us for coaching.
Thank you, Krishna Prakash. It was really, I mean, there are quite a few takeaways that were coming in from whatever you were talking about. The other thing, it also takes me back to a question that we had last week, in our last week's session, is, and you have alluded to a large part of it in the response that you were giving now, is often coaches, they tend to hear about the challenges that the coaches or their clients are having. Okay, and those challenges involve a lot of turbulent events, issues that they have in their life, and things like that. Now, quite a few coaches tend to get impacted by these things. Okay, and the impact seems to drain their energy as well. So that was the question that we had last week. And yoga talks about developing a witness-like attitude, basically. So how can one build this particular attitude? Do you have any practices that you can suggest to us where we can build a witness-like attitude when we are in front of a client?
The first is what we practiced. Like we are there, in our presence, things are happening. There is no urge to change anything because we are ourselves transitory. So nothing is permanent. So whatever is happening around is happening at that time and it's moving on, right? So inner silence is the best way to prepare along with Yoga Nidra, because withdrawal is extremely important. Now, for example, it is easy to say today we are going out with a mask, and a surgeon always was with the mask when they enter the OT, operation theater. There is always a glove because every day in and day out they were operating that way. Correct? Today we are also, what we are trying to do, we are withdrawing ourselves from getting infected by doing some protection, N95 mask, sprays and everything. Similarly, in the mind level, the coach has to understand sometimes it pays even to take a short break from coaching. So that is why mentors are needed, and coaches also need coaches. Like you beautifully said, you bounce off ideas with Kingshu, someone having a decade experience. And today, because of pandemic, we hear everyone getting certificate in coaching. People come to us and take a certificate of yoga teacher training in 27 days. Let me be frank. My teacher allowed to talk after 12 years of silence. You just do your corporate job. The inner work happens. That 12 years of tapas, penance and waiting period is necessary. Today we pass out of coaching and there is so much expectations on ourselves. Many times we don't even know what to expect of ourselves because we do not have enough cases. So what coaches could do is to attach themselves to senior coaches, like how a trained lawyer gets enrolled in an office, how a CA enrolls, how a doctor starts as a house surgeon, then junior surgeon. They know it pays to wait. But this modern craze about getting a paper printed, certificate, people think they can just get into it. So the best thing any of us can do is to first find someone who we look up to. They may have a certification, they may not have a certification, but they reflect and they can be objective with us. So it is very important for a coach to always live in the presence of another coach, because the very idea of competition is what killing that attitude. There is no competition. There is no competition. Literally, we are all so unique. So if we can't resolve the matter that we are unique, and what we bring to the table, no one else can bring, and what someone else brings, we cannot bring, because we are not clones of each other. So this is called a mind culture. So in the coaching, other than teaching techniques and giving templates, it is this understanding of the truth that each of us are unique. So there is no way replication is possible. Cloning is not possible. So the fearlessness has to be inbuilt. So the coaches, when they are undergoing or they are under weather, they should take recourse to a senior coach. When I say a senior coach, age doesn't matter, experience matters. And what they did with life matters a lot, right? So we need to find them. And if we can't remove from our mind a gender, an age, a country, then how are we going to transfer that to someone sitting before us? So that is why it starts with inner silence. And finally, we need to find someone who we can resonate with, who are able to relate to what we do. And remember how a senior lawyer or a senior chartered accountant or a surgeon works. Let us become an apprentice. Like Swami Vivekananda says, first learn to obey. Then you will get the ability to seek whatever you want. So first, that is extremely important. There is no substitute to learning and being with another human being. A certificate and book has limited knowledge. A book cannot clarify your doubt, but a living person can always interact. And they will definitely say, this topic I have never dealt, just give me a second, I will refer someone and come back to you. So we have to take time to build this human network, basically.
Great. That's fantastic. I think that's a very unique suggestion that you've given and drawn parallels to other professions which are benefiting from these associations. Call it article training or internship or what have you. Coaching is missing that, which is a very critical profession, but I think it's missing that model because everybody thinks that they are competing with somebody else, and if I get somebody closer to me, then this person might steal away my knowledge. That's a fantastic point that you brought about. I want to open it up to the audience. Any questions or any thoughts? Anything that you want to share?
Hi, Aditya, if I could.
Yeah, Matt, please.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very pertinent thing that Krishna brought up in terms of competition and being unique. Templates help us, no doubt, but it's just probably a good thing to start off with, right? And that can't define your uniqueness. And if we get comfortable in that, being in our own uniqueness, it could be the way we deliver, it could be just the way we listen to someone. I think that kind of takes care of a load of things. And and then there's a spectacular suggestion that that apprenticeship helps a lot. Helps a lot. It makes a big difference, irrespective. I think whatever we would have started off from, when that whole thing happens, it kind of instills a confidence, I think, in that person of how they can do, and then they are more secure. And this security is what can, I think, is easy for them to learn from another person, or even to go ahead and collaborate. So,
Thank you.
And also I think thanks for a lot of analogies, similes that quite resonated. And thanks for reiterating the fact that I think a coach also needs to unload with somebody so that they can calibrate well, because unless the instrument is calibrated, it cannot measure things well. So I think thanks for that point. I was really deeply thinking about how do you take time to be transparent and be vulnerable and open up with somebody so that others take it from you, so that in this process of talking out to somebody, you figure out probably some of your invulnerabilities and inadequacies, and then figure out why you should just keep the mouth shut when listening to others. Thank you.
Thanks, CH. And CH happens to be one of the people whom I look up to, and I've been working with him for almost like another 2 decades. And Kingshuk, CH, and I, we go together basically. In any other pointers before we move on to the question of the week, or any questions or any suggestions? Great. I think if there isn't any, I'll hand it over to Kingshuk. Kingshuk, can you please let us know what was the question of this week?
Yeah, thank you, Aditya. Yeah, the question for this week is, and this is for Krishna and Aditya, is how can I be successful in breaking the patterns once for all? The person didn't want to be named. The question is, how can I be successful in breaking the patterns once for all?
Krishnaji, your thoughts, please.
They have to realize who they are. So we are in a transactional world. When I say transaction, we transact emotions, we transact money. and we transact even whatever we know with each other. Because knowledge is a great wealth today, right? So we transact. Unless someone crosses over the need to transact, patterns cannot be avoided. Because it is the same pattern which is even making you to turn back. Say when I call Kishore or when I call Seema, it is this pattern which you call a memory, which is making us to turn back. So the realized ones or the bodhisattvas or the Mahatmas, they refer to them as this or that. Correct? So let us not have so much load when you have such questions. What is the alternate we have to check? The alternate is picking up to a practice. First is we need to break the notion that there is something secular, something religious, something spiritual, something material. Science is very clear. Quantum physics is clear. There is nothing. And Heisenberg is very clear. Heisenberg uncertainty principle is pretty clear. When you think there is a movement and you observe, that movement stops. It becomes matter. And the moment you think something is matter and you observe, it moves, it's energy. So this is the very crux of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, right? So unless we are able to transcend that, you will have thoughts. And what can be done? We can refill those thoughts with something called a mantra. Or if you are so much adept in working with your breath, you be there. Or you're so much adept in working with silence. So you need to fill something in the pattern. And then it becomes seamless. So the simple way to understand, as long as we are in the world of transaction, patterns can't be avoided. Sometimes the patterns help us to take right decisions as well. So second way, there is a replacement. So the replacement is a process which you could derive from your own tradition. Every tradition has its own process, like saying the name or a tasbih or a mantra or silence or breath. Something is there, right? So we have to go back to the roots. Always we need to go back to the roots. We should not forget. These are all just happening. So once you go back to the roots and you know with which you resonate, fill in that pattern. And over a period of time, the pattern will help you instead of putting us down. So this is one way of looking at it.
Thank you. I quite like the point that patterns also help us, not just hinder. So I'll probably talk about it from my experience of working with an individual, where that person was also having a similar challenge. And King should feel free to chip in and add your experiences, because yours are far more than what I have. So what I have seen is patterns are formed because we experience something and a similar thing comes in. So the first time we experience something, there is no pattern. That's the first time we are going through it. But then the next time something similar happens is when the pattern starts to emerge. And these patterns often lead to beliefs. And that's where the belief system comes into play. So with this individual that I was working, I had to first break into the belief system to understand the pattern. And when we question, and like say, for example, this person was saying, my boss always tells me that I don't give feedback. So, and I asked the person, so what is stopping you from giving the feedback? So this person says, no, but they don't want to hear you. So my next question was, what makes you say that? And that is when his belief system started getting shaken, because he didn't have a response to what makes him think that his boss wouldn't like to be hearing. It was coming in from the fact that this particular person had worked with a few other bosses who were not ready to listen. So in his mind, it has always become that bosses don't want to listen. They don't want to hear your feedback. So when we walked into those patterns and tried to break those patterns, this individual realized that, okay, fine, this boss is different. this boss need not sit in the same pattern of my experiences that I had before. And when the person started looking at it, he started kind of working through that once again, and has become more receptive, started giving feedback, and things were working out with the new boss. So this is my experience, where we have to break through the belief system to kind of touch the patterns. But I also had to tell that person that, mind you, this might become a pattern, so you have to become more aware of it. The new thing of giving the feedback might become a pattern, so your awareness comes into play then. And if a person is not receptive to the feedback, you have to look at the alternate method, basically. So that has been my experience. Kingshuk, what do you think?
Yeah, thanks, Aditya. So I would just repeat this question to the person and ask him or her. For example, the question says, "How can I be successful in breaking the patterns once for all?" Now, as a listener, I feel there's a lot of intensity in that statement. You know, it seems to be very decisive. Once for all. So I would ask, what does once for all mean? I would also ask, where did this intensity, and that's an assumption on my part, come from? Tell me about that incident which was the precursor to this question. So, in a way, I would ask multiple questions to this question.
Yeah. Great. Any other thoughts? Any questions? So I think there's a question in the chat box from CH. It says, what is the definition of success? How is the pattern
Yeah.
interfere? How does the pattern interfering your need for success?
Yeah.
So,
I think these are also great coaching questions. Defining success. In fact, he says successful. The person says, how can I be successful? So, what does success mean? Is a good question, a great question.
And how is the current pattern not helping you?
And another question I might have is, what tells you that this is a pattern?
Yeah. And again, it's going to go and touch the belief that the person has, basically. I mean, unless we have more information about this, we probably may not be able to talk more. But I think these are pointers. If the person is on with us, or eventually listening to this conversation, might get some pointers around that.
Great
In fact,
question.
I really love the way you listen to the intensity, Kingshuk. That's what makes you who you are, of course. I think once for all, and break from the pattern once for all tells that I'm so disappointed or so uncomfortable in the current. And this person wants to, and I think to Krishnaji's point, you need to transcend the state where you are. Till unless you transcend the current discomfort, you cannot listen to what others are talking. If you are caught up in your own swamp and rigmarole, where is the opportunity for you to listen? So I'm just connecting the dots of conversation with Krishnaji and what you said. I think there is a lot of self-awareness that he talked about. Unless you are aware of who you are, what you want to do, and then where is that such a disappointment in who you are being today, and a strong feeling that I'm being not successful, and want to be successful is an aspirational need.
Yeah.
And probably the competition piece that he talked about a little while ago.
Yeah.
I mean, all these things are nice, beautiful dots to be connected.
Yeah.
And I think then there will be a pattern that will tell you.
Yeah, why not?
Sorry for interrupting.
No worries, CH. I mean, thanks a lot. Amit, you raised your hand. Anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I mean, just I think you call him CH, right? CH, Krishna, Kingshuk, all of you were speaking. Of course, we need to assume a lot of things, but I think there's an assumption, good assumption on that part of that person also, that there is one thing that can be a solution for all kind of patterns.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's one
Yeah,
thing. I mean, of course,
that's true.
yeah, the biggest thing is that, and patterns emerge because of different, things. Even if you break one, the next second something else could emerge.
True.
Because I mean, just here on the screen, each one of us experiencing this differently, right? So we are forming our own patterns just on this. And there is no end to it. The point is to kind of accept, live, be, and see from a different, and then move on. The first thing is acceptance, of how things are, and I think that's all here. Most of the other things we've kind of taken care of.
It's a great
Yeah,
point.
beautiful. Yeah.
It's a great point. Any other questions? Any other thoughts before we wrap the session up?
Like definition of success is as good as asking someone to define what is sweetness for them. No, what is that is different, right, for everyone. So for someone, behaving good itself is so sweet. For someone, you need a physical sweet. So this we call in the tradition as when the success is solely depend on artha and kama, that is generation of wealth and enjoyment through senses of that, then there is a lot of comparison and contrast happens. And sometimes we feel so successful till we get to know someone got an additional award. So this is comparative dissatisfaction. That is why in the plane of transaction, we need to accept this is going to be never ending. And each one has to define whether are they closer to the core. Are they closer to the core who they are? Suppose if they are a carpenter and they really know they are a carpenter, are they trying to behave like a painter or an electrician? This is where there is an aberration. And there the success will definitely elude like a mirage. But if you are the carpenter, you know you are good in carpentry and you just be with it, right? So resonating with one's core defines that. Else it's all comparative dissatisfaction. This one small.
Yeah, resonating with the core.
Nice.
It's very powerful. Yeah. Great. If we don't have any further questions, we can probably end this session here. I would just like to launch a poll for next week.
I'm sorry, Aditya.
Yep.
I had a question. I was just thinking, how do I frame it so that I'm crisper? So Krishnaji, this is about, you just talked about resonating, and how do I even, of course, self-awareness is one piece, but question is, how do I build the awareness of the fact that I'm discontent with myself, or I'm comparing myself with others?
The far we walk away from intellect, the quick we will get the solution. Because an intellect will never allow us even to be a witness. Intellect has its limitations because we existed even before we did our college school, and after some time we have to fade off. So this intellect is the one which plays the trick. So there is a limit to intellect, like how there is a utility to intellect. So the key is becoming as much closer to who we are, that is Sakshi, the witness, and utilizing intellect is a tool. So utilizing it where it is needed. Suppose a child is coming and telling you a rhyme, you don't look for grammatical errors or punctuation marks or pronunciation issues or an accent problem. You just see the intention and the love with which it is shared, right? So this getting too much into in like taking fibers out of stone. You can't do that, right? You can't intellectualize why the sunrise yesterday is different from today. I am standing in the same balcony. So there is a limit to intellect. It is to absorb and understand, but assimilation and deriving experience out of it is possible only when we draw ourselves back. It's like a utility. You go out, you wear a coat. When you are with yourself, you don't wear a coat. So this intellect is the one which is actually on the way of happiness and success.
Love it. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So for next week's topic, we wanted to do something slightly different, where either Kingshuk or I would probably help you with a few aspects. Those of you who are planning to join us the next week, we'll launch a poll. Select which one would you like, and we would help you with that. Let me know if you have. Yeah, I can. Got 6 responses so far. Probably give it another 5 seconds before we end it. About all 8 of them. Okay. I'll share the results with you all. So preparing one's own vision board got more responses than emotional balance. So we will help you build your own vision board next week, where you would be able to create your own visual depiction of the goals that you have in your life. So we will work on that next week in the next week's session. And till then, I want to thank you all for joining us this week and making this wonderful session. I want to thank Krishna Prakash ji for his time and his efforts and all the conversations we had in the preparation towards this session. And every time I speak to Krishna Prakash ji, I walk away with a feeling of wow. So that's I mean, I can't thank you enough. So thanks a lot. Thank you very much. And next week we will work on preparing your own vision board. Be prepared to stay for 60 to 90 minutes for this particular session. The reason being, some of you may take a little longer, some of you may take a little shorter time. So for us to all go together, as Krishna Prakash was alluding some time back, patience. So we need to be patient and wait for the rest of others also to come together, so that we can be on this journey together. All right. So thank you very much. I'll stop sharing the poll. I will see you all. We will see you all next week in the session 10, where we will be preparing a vision board, and we will stay online if anybody has any questions. Otherwise, if I'm cognizant of everybody's time, if they want to drop off, feel free to.
I just wanted to share one bit. I don't know, probably there are not many questions in that sense, because some things that he shares, I think we need a lot of time to even absorb it in the right manner.
Yeah.
You know, before we can even, develop those things to, start questioning or something else arises. So, but fantastic session. Thank you, Aditya, for, having this Kingshuk CH. And thanks so much, Krishna. Every single time, like Aditya says, every time we speak, there is something new to learn. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all for joining us.